Well, good morning. It's Friday morning. Today, in our leading up to Pentecost, we're going to read Acts 2 5 through 13. Now there were dwelling in Jerusalem Jews, devout men from every nation under heaven. And at this sound the multitude came together, and they were bewildered, because each one was hearing them speak in his own language. And they were amazed and astonished and said, "Are not all these who are speaking Galileans? And how is it that we hear, each of us in his own native language? Parthians and Medes and Elamites and residents of Mesopotamia, Pontus, Judea and Cappadocia, Pontus and Asia, Phrygia and Pamphylia, Egypt and the parts of Libya belonging to Cyrene, and visitors from Rome, both Jews and proselytes, Cretans and Arabians. We hear them telling in our own tongues the mighty works of God." And all were amazed and perplexed, saying to one another, "What does this mean?" But others, mocking, said, "They are filled with new wine." So what I want you to do today is take 5 minutes, go to Google, the Google machine, and Google Acts 2 countries map. And you will see that this is not the entire world. This is not even the entire known world. This is everybody who lives within a certain, what would you call it, a certain range of Jerusalem. About a 3 or 4 hour airplane flight, of Jerusalem. And so there's no one there from the Americas that didn't know about America. There's no one there from the Far East. They've had only vague notions about China. It was mostly myth. And there's no one there from, Southern Africa, or Australia. There's just huge parts of the world that are completely ignored, and it's just this small circle that encompasses the Roman Empire and the Persian empires, and pretty much that's it. So you've got Elam and Persia and Mesopotamia. That's sort of the Far East, and it only goes like to Baghdad and over by the Tigris-Euphrates rivers, and then Cappadocia, Pontus, Phrygia, and Pamphylia are all in Asia Minor, which is our current Turkey, the country of Turkey. So that's fairly small, but that's what those regions are. Libya is North Africa, and it still is the country of Libya, but that was a word that meant the North Africa from Egypt and over further west. People from Rome. Nobody from France, Spain, England, whatever they call those countries in those days is there. Just as sort of the locals. And these are places where the Jews would have gone after the dispersion. Jews had migrated from Jerusalem out to the wider world for a couple of 100 years. There was a large Jewish colony in Alexandria, Egypt, for instance. That's where the 70 scholars translated the Bible into Greek, the Hebrew Bible into Greek, like 200 years before Jesus. And so that was an established center of Jewish faith. And these other places are places where Jews had migrated to. After AD 70, when Rome burned Jerusalem down, they all dispersed and went everywhere they could go, and these were the places they went. So these are the places where there are already Jews, and they have all come to Jerusalem for the festival. And so there are all these people in Jerusalem. And when the Spirit is poured out on the apostles, they begin to preach in all these languages. and everybody is hearing the gospel in their own native language. Now, most people in the ancient world, you had the language that you learned when you grew up, and you had the language that everybody spoke, which was Greek, kind of a common, unsophisticated sort of Greek. And so that's what everybody spoke, and that's what the New Testament is written in. But everybody also had their original language. And so somebody who lived who had grown up in Mesopotamia, far to the east, probably spoke what we call Syriac, which is sort of an Aramaic language that would have been related to the Aramaic that they spoke in Israel. Or somebody who grew up in Pontus or Asia would have spoken some tongue that's related. I don't know what they would have spoken, but it would be different from Greek. And so they all heard all these languages being spoken. And it was a miracle because these are Galilean fishermen. They haven't been to school. They haven't been to a university to study these languages. There weren't universities where you could study these languages. The CIA language school didn't exist. There was no way to learn these languages except move to those countries and live there for some years and really make that effort. And they didn't do that. So how do these Galileans know what to say? It's a miracle. It's the Spirit doing it. The Spirit gave them the tongues. Now, in our day, there are a lot of people who speak in tongues, and a lot of it sounds like some sort of gibberish. It doesn't sound like a known language. And they say, well, that's not a known language. It's my prayer language or something like that. It may well be, but this is different from what happened in those days in that place where they all spoke all these languages that people from all these places would have known. So if it was the whole world, it would have been a lot bigger, but it was not the whole world. It was the known Jewish world of the day. And some people said, oh, they're just drunk. Well, if a drunk got up and started preaching, he's not going to be preaching in the language of Phrygia, right? So that doesn't hold any water. And Peter's going to get up and say, there's only 9 o'clock in the morning. How could they be drunk? But that's for tomorrow. So, but take a look at that map and see what you can learn about the whole world and the ancient world, and see where the people came from. I think it's kind of interesting. And then we'll get into Peter's response to the crowd tomorrow. So have a great day.